Thank you. As I said earlier, until now, Cabo has not really participated in the planning process. We feel we have relevant data and we have experience both in agriculture and in the wedding industry. But we don't want to waste anybody's time by participating in a process that has no resemblance to the original board intent of facilitating the ag landowner's ability to earn supplemental income from events, including weddings, on their land. We cannot support any ordinance that does not display an authentic commitment to the original board intent to expedite and streamline the process for landowners. And we request the Board of Supervisors to reaffirm that weddings and events on ag-zoned land in this county provide an essential supplemental income stream for struggling farmers and ranchers that the county should protect and encourage as part of ag tourism, and that legitimate concerns about noise and neighborhood impact should be addressed without using these issues as a ruse to eliminate the events themselves. On the other hand, if the board wishes to change its intent and say we don't want that, fine, let the board state so publicly, let the planners discuss it, let's have an honest discussion. That's what the requirements of accountability and transparency in our legislative process demand. But let's not adopt an ordinance that reeks of big city slickness and clever phrasing and say that we're doing this to protect our rural traditions. Our rural traditions include not just picturesque farm stands, but also honesty and plain speaking. Thank you for this opportunity to come here today.
Thank you, Clint, and thank you, Adam. The proposal that's before you today strikes a balance between the desire to increase economic opportunity by directing events to appropriate locations and the need to preserve our ag and rural neighborhoods for their intended uses. It is not whether events will occur, but where. This balanced approach supports the Chamber's mission to keep San Luis Obispo one of the world's greatest places to live and work, to keep existing businesses prosperous and selectively attract new ones, to protect air quality, open space, and a sense of community, and to grow in a manner consistent with protecting community character and quality of life. We urge you to support the proposal, but continue the work to finish it.
Okay, we've been very discouraged on the direction this draft has gone once it's got in the hands of the Planning Commission, and we're very disturbed by the process and where that's been going by handing it over to the Ag Tourism Coalition. The winery ordinance that we have in this county should be the one we should be basing this on, and I don't know why we have to keep referring. If you look at the drafts, they keep referring to Napa County. We need to make it simple, we need to make it fair, and we too support what Daniela has said, that the Board of Supervisors should be reaffirming the legislative intent, especially with so many years gone by since. Thank you.
Again, insisting this should look like the winery ordinance is kind of a disconnect with history and reality. The wine ordinance looks the way it does because it's completely different from every other kind of agriculture, so the logic would be every other kind of agriculture should now look like this ordinance that was passed for this other kind of agriculture on the basis of how different it was from all the other agriculture. If you are a farmer, you are probably hurting most of the time. You need a supplementary stream of income. You are subject to crop failures. You're subject to bad weather. But if you are not able to get through things like bad weather and crop failures, it's because you don't have enough money to get you through those events. It's not the events themselves. And if you don't have enough money to get you through the bad times, it's because your profit margin is in the pits. And if you're not making enough money as a profit, that's because you are part of an industrialized, corporatized agricultural distribution system that took hold in this country around the mid-20th century and has basically cut your profits since 1950 by 32%. If you were farming, or your dad or your granddad in 1950, he was getting 70 cents of every consumer dollar spent on food. You are getting 10 cents or less because the other money is going to the middlemen, processors, distributors, packagers, everything that I've been talking about would localize this economy, would localize the farm, would keep the money in the local economy, and would actually increase your profits. Watering down the Ag Events Ordinance is not going to do that. Unlimited 500 guest weddings on ag land is going to harm that. We think that in order for the county to keep its promises on smart growth, on food security, on the goal of keeping agricultural land in agriculture, this ordinance needs to be passed substantially as it's currently drafted.
Okay, thank you. Let me, if we could, just show a thanks to all of our panelists for being here. And before I hand it back off for some closing remarks to Clint Pierce on behalf of the Chamber, I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for being engaged. And I do know that at the Board of Supervisors, we seek to hear what you have to say on all sides of every issue and try to lower the temperature if we can on some of these things. We know there's concern. We appreciate that concern. This is not something we've weighed in on yet. I suspect we will be soon enough. But we do appreciate the concerns of business people, of the agriculturalists, and of the people who live in the rural neighborhoods who have the impacts upon them from events. I do think that we can come to some sort of balanced ordinance that everybody will be able to live with. That is what we will, strive to achieve. Thank you very much for being here. Let me just turn it over to Clint Pierce for some closing remarks from the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you. And we really want to thank you, Supervisor Hill, and your legislative assistant, Susan Devine, for facilitating this. This is great discussion and dialogue, because this is a public process. And as we see, there's huge divides on where we're at, and it's great. It's taken some more time to really get to a reasonable solution for all. So, and thank you for coming, and we appreciate the panel, your comments, your insights, and again, thank you for coming.